Hello and welcome to another episode of the Date Your Wife podcast. I am here with my partner in crime for over 20 to 21 years, married 22 years this year. We have 5 kids together, 2 dogs, 2 businesses. It's a little bit of a shit show, and that's why we started this podcast. We wanted to make sure that you guys know you're a shit show, we're a shit show, and we're all in this shit show together.
The shit show is called marriage.
So welcome to marriage. You know what's so funny when and we've talked about this before, like when I'll meet like entrepreneurs that have no kids, I'm like, you have no excuse. I'm like, what? Like, it's just wild. Like, I mean, I love our kids. I wouldn't recommend toddlers and teenagers at the same time. It's a bit of it's a lot. It's a lot.
Well, listen, 30-day sex challenge can be easy for our couples with no kids.
Oh man, why don't we just
easy.
So
easy.
Well, we made it on one of our last shows. We made I think Garrett made the challenge, and somehow I agreed.
You agreed publicly.
Well,
like all of our contracts. This is the first public contract that you've made.
But we didn't sign.
You make contracts. No, we shook hands. And if a woman's word is not her bond.
But here's
what do you have in marriage?
Ladies, here's what else the contract came with, because it's like, yeah, sure, 30 days of sex, but I also said 30 days of connection, meaning like I feel seen by you, I get some attention, like 30 days of connection. And that doesn't mean like we have our date nights and things, but that means like there's just like moments out of our day where it's like could be like a 30-minute like how are you, like whatever check-in kind of thing.
So does that change every day? What that looks like?
Is it change?
Yeah, like you feeling connected and seen, does that change day to day, like how that works?
I mean, I like it at nighttime when we're like I was saying in the last show, like when we like finally go to lay down to bed, I like to have a little bit of conversation before it's just like, all right, babe, show me your boobs. I'm like, let's have like a little bit of seduction here, you know?
A little bit of seduction.
Yeah,
Got it. Okay, so we're going to work through that seduction plan. We're just going to call it the seduction.
Is it normal for guys? Like, I'm sure it is normal, and I don't even know why I'm asking this, but like, Amber's in the room. Maybe she could attest to this. Like when you lay down by your man, like he just automatically, his hand goes right to the boob. Like that's like his property.
You're getting a head nod right there by all of our team.
It's not even
by the guys and
it's
girls.
not even how was your day. It's like, that is my boob, that one.
Well, yeah. If I bought the boobs, they technically are kind of mine too.
Well, no.
I paid for them.
They're on my body. But I'm just saying like there's.
But it's just part of it's my property.
Yeah. But it's like, I don't even think you think it'd be like, it almost be like you think you're like holding my hand. You're just like.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. If a woman, every time you got in bed, reached over and grabbed her man's cock, you would hear no complaints from this guy. So I think the girls just have a problem. It's like they just need to be open.
Well, here's the thing is like, if we want to have conversation, I'm like, it's like.
If you had your hand on my cock while we were talking, I'm absolutely good with that.
No, you wouldn't have. You'd be like trying to get at it.
No, I wouldn't. I'd just sit there very calm with you.
No.
I'd be very erect,
Maybe
but
I'll
I'd
try
be very
that
calm.
and see where it goes.
Can we put that on the clause for 30 days? I mean, I tried to put it on there. It sounds like you're coming back.
You know what's so funny is, and this is another thing that guys do. They cannot help it when his wife or his woman walks into a kitchen. Why is there just tapping the ass automatically?
Because the ass looks great.
It's just, hey babe, how are you?
Some guys have women they can slap the front ass.
Well, anyways.
You seen that Instagram? You seen that Instagram reel?
Here's where I wanted to. Here's where I wanted to.
You think it's an ass? He smacks it, and then she steps into the camera. It's a giant front ass.
That's cute. But here's what I realized.
I couldn't handle that if you had that.
I couldn't handle that if
okay,
I had
good.
that.
That makes 2 of us. Let's continue.
But here's what I realized is I was like, when I started doing it back to you, like I'm like, I wonder if he notices he does this to me. So I like playfully like grab your ass and it backfires because you're like, oh, I like that.
No. I was good with it until you started like trying to shove your finger in my ass.
I did not.
I was like,
I credit card you because
no, you weren't that. You would come in like hands like this, like you were trying to bang my ass. You're like, come behind and you dig in there. If I was doing that, that's unacceptable. You're just like, I'm gonna ass bang him. I'm like, I'm sitting in the kitchen trying to have a meal prep with a finger in my ass. I'm like,
not do that. I'm sorry.
You got a little aggressive.
No, I'm sorry.
You were over exaggerating what I do. Ours,
no,
I used to do a smack, and now it's more of a gentle caress because you say I didn't like the smack. So it's more just kind of an appreciation of a statue.
Yeah, that's better.
It's like, here's a statue in my house, looks great. Let me just polish it, make sure it's looking good. Still doing good. Still doing good.
So you like the ass smack or not?
I like you smacking my ass. I don't like you digging my asshole.
I don't dig your. Oh my God.
Well, I'm just saying. There's been a couple times you get aggressive and you come in there like trying to be funny, like you're trying to be a dude. Like, oh, let me get it. Only you don't do it like a dude. If I came up to you and I just like,
oh my God,
went straight for your asshole, like just that
sometimes
wouldn't work.
You do.
Not when we're in the kitchen.
All right, so let's take it back. Continue there.
Here we go.
Here we go. Good way to start off the show.
Listen, I want you to know you started the show today and took it there. I didn't. So I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. You're learning. I'm proud of you. You're taking the show the place the show should go.
I guess where I'm getting is like at nighttime, instead of just putting a hand on the left breast, even though that's where you want to go, maybe if you consciously like just put your hand on my shoulder and so like, how was your day today?
Done. I'll do that.
Because what happens is when your hand goes straight to the boob, I'm like, of course you want to have sex, but can you like maybe just like
pretend I don't want to have sex?
Yeah, maybe just.
Does that turn you on when I pretend I don't want
Pretend that you are interested in more than just sex.
Again, this is the same way that God created all man, which is hard because like, no, that's a lie because I come and fall asleep. So
yeah, you do. That's true.
Yeah.
If you know, that's the thing that's frustrating. If you know it's off the table, like if for any reason, if you know it's off the table or we had sex the morning of or whatever, you literally come to bed and are snoring within 30 seconds, maybe less.
You got me a snore guard, so I can put that. You did. You videoed me at the beach snoring.
We were at the beach yesterday, and he literally was like, I don't snore, babe. And I'm like, you snore like really loud. So he passed out on the beach, and I put the camera right up against his face, and it's like a loud snore. Like he's like, no, I just breathe heavy. I'm like, no, you snore loud. Between toddlers, teenagers, and snoring, like there's a reason I'm in bed for 10 hours because I got to get at least 6 hours of sleep. And are you trying to find your snore video? Yeah, that's exactly what I hear every night. It's very sexy.
Oh, that sounds so good. I mean, I definitely want to sit on that guy's face.
Why? And I keep buying you snore guards.
I mean, I wouldn't want to sit on his face for real, but like as a guy, but
it was sexy.
Yeah, just a giant gorilla laying on the beach. I'm just.
At first, I gotta be honest. At first, we were all kind of laying there, and I'm like, "What is that?" And then I realized it was you snoring on the beach.
You should know it by now.
Yep.
Okay, so listen, we had you had an event in town.
Had a what?
You had an event a couple weeks ago. Tell us about the trainers.
So I created a system of hair extension called Natural Beauty Rose, and the reason
that color looks really good on you.
Oh, thanks. See, that's all you gotta do. That's all you gotta do. Thanks.
Your boots are really hot.
Thanks.
I appreciate that you made the move in that.
Do you want me to finish your story though?
I love how well you take care of yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'd like you to wear the Super Bowl ring more often.
I just feel like wearing the pink one. Do you want me to finish that story? Or
no, I was just noticing how amazing you are as a woman. Yeah, you look great.
So back to the story.
How's your day been so far? You've had a good day. Is this a good time on the podcast for you?
It's good, but I was going to go back to my story because you just asked me to talk about my thing and then you interrupted me.
I was interrupted by your beauty and your grace.
Okay, well, I'll keep talking about it.
It's like impossible not to see you on the show.
You want to hear more about my event?
I just am overwhelmed by the energy I'm feeling just being married to you.
It's good.
Yeah.
Now it seems a little bit not sincere, so maybe back it off. Just back it up.
Just back it up a little bit.
Like maybe just said
too many crayons.
Things. Yeah, like the boots and the dress.
Too many crayons.
And then take it back around to like again. Sorry, back to that event, babe.
Okay, got it. Okay, so too many crayons. So that was 7 crayons. I need to back it down. Minus 3 crayons equals 4 crayons, and we're back to 4.
Okay, then.
Back to 4 crayons. So simple. We're back to 4, boys. So we're back to 4. Okay. 7's too many. It was 164.
Did you forget?
Just keep it to 4.
You just forgot? All
right. So back to the trainers. Okay. So you had your trainers in town.
Well, no, that's not. Well, here's where I was getting at. So.
Okay.
Well, yes, I created an extension system called Natural Beauty Rose. I started this 13 years ago after we lost it all.
Yep.
And nobody had like brands of their own. And out of desperation to stay in touch with you, it's so wild. People ask me all the time. They're like, "So how did you like come up? Like, what made you want to like start this brand?" But it's funny because when we were like not doing very good, and you were I'm writing a book right now. It's called God Is My Ghostwriter, and I'm going through all these old stories, and I'm like, no wonder this and this and this happened. You know what I mean? Yeah. But then I didn't see it how it was going down. But it's interesting because when we lost everything financially, you started going to like all these like. I call them like hippie dippy retreats. Now it's like medicine journey. But back then you weren't doing medicine journeys, but you were doing like all these hippie like Great Life,
meditation,
and like
experiential
retreats.
training,
Remember the one we
landmark,
like had the
Great Life.
shaman come to the cabin? Shaman come to the cabin.
The shaman. Remember when the shamans came and taught you how to ShamWow?
No.
You got you some 2 ShamWows.
No, so we got the shamans.
Shamans. Yeah, taught meditation.
But it was through all this, and I was like trying to like get into what you were getting into, but really I was like, I just want to pay the fucking bills. So I was like trying to hold space for you to like find yourself, because we grew up like super Mormon, and all of a sudden you're going to the ShamWow guy. I don't know how to feel about this.
No disrespect to all the shamans out there who have put a ton of work in themselves to lead and guide humanity to awaken. Sorry, you're being compared to the ShamWow guy.
Anywho, so I was trying to, in my attempt to connect with you, found myself like almost like being like, oh, like, why is he doing all this? Like, I didn't understand. And one of the reasons I started my own brand was my attempt to connect with you, because you were starting a brand called, it wasn't Wake Up
Paid
Warrior.
to Play.
It was Paid to Play, but then there was Investors Paradigm, or which one was first?
No, Investors Paradigm was mortgages.
Okay, so Paid to Play.
Paid to Play, and I also was running a marketing agency called Movement Marketers.
I just remember Paid to Play, but you were like, you had these people that were building websites, and
Yeah.
Back then, it wasn't really a thing.
ClickFunnels didn't exist.
No, ClickFunnels didn't exist. Like, there was no personal branding. It was just like you were a brick and mortar, or you're like an entrepreneur that opened up a shop or whatever.
This is 2009, 2010.
Yeah. So that just like now there's such an oversaturation of everybody's got a brand. But back then it wasn't a thing. And I remember in my attempt, I'm like, okay, well, what's a brand? Like, I'm a hairstylist, like whatever. And you're like, well, you do these extensions, and you're always, because I was always teaching people. Like, I had figured out how to do, just based off of trial and error on my own shitty hair, I'd figured out how to do extensions that looked really natural and didn't ruin your hair. And I was always teaching people, and you're like, why don't you just like start a brand? And I'm like, I don't know. I remember we were literally sitting in the kitchen. You're like, what do you want to call your brand? I'm like, I don't know.
I'd gotten 2 girls that were clients of mine to do the website for you and did trade.
And they were like, what do you want to call it? And I'm like, I don't know. They're beads on a string. They look natural. Let's call them Natural Bead of Rose. So that's kind of how I like started my whole brand. And then I had no idea like where it was going to, the direction it was going to go. I also didn't know, and I get irritated at the oversaturation of the marketplace of like beaded rose and hidden hand hair extensions. But I also look at it as, if I hadn't done that, all these other people wouldn't have done the same thing. It's kind of similar with like ClickFunnels, when like how they were like at the event last week, when there was like this sadness to it, and we're up on stage speaking, and you had everybody hold up their flashlights on their phones, and you looked at Russell and you're like, look at, if you didn't, I know you feel like this is coming to a close, but I need you to consider, if you never started this, who did you not impact? And that room was just the tip of the iceberg, and there was 5,000 people in there. So then you look at those 5,000 people and who they've impacted with their message. And I had this moment where I looked at Russell, I was like, good fucking job.
Yeah.
Because it's like you
tens of millions of people impacted.
And so they're feeling this like sadness. And I kind of came on stage of like, look at this in a place of gratitude and the impact you made. And if you can do that, you can do it again. And I think for me, even like with the extensions, and I get irritated at like the competition, I'm like, but I started this movement of hair extensions. Yep. I started this movement of hand-tied hair extensions, beaded extensions, and now they're like the most sought-after extensions out there.
Well, just that though, it was a empowering hairstylists to see themselves as more than
just the artist,
like bottom feeders. Like hairstylists have always been looked at as like the bottom feeder industry.
Well,
you couldn't do anything. You couldn't go to school. You were too dumb. Be a hairstylist. Yeah. You don't have a trade. Be a hairstylist. Like just be. So hairstylists always here, and you elevated it to like Bugatti level experience with women making great money, women in Midwest towns who were making $60,000 to $100,000 a year in hair, doing hair 7 days a week as slaves. Now they could do hair 3 days a week, be home with their family.
But the only reason I did that is when I started my brand.
Yeah.
Because for the first time, I didn't look at myself as a hairdresser. I started to think like an entrepreneur and a business owner. Even though I knew nothing, I was like, the hair is my trade. And it is the trade that I have. And so many people are looking for what they should be passionate about, only to ignore the skills that they have right in front of them. And so for me, I was in this place where I was like, I can't go back to college. I don't have any money. I have 2 kids. What is my skill? It's doing hair. Am I good at it? Yeah. Am I undervaluing myself? Yes. Why? Because I'm thinking like a hairstylist. So for me, it was like we had no money, and I looked at it as like, I don't have a choice. Even if we don't stay married, I always saw myself as being successful. Like, I expected this standard in this life because of like how I was raised. My parents were both entrepreneurs. They had like they weren't like super wealthy, but we lived a good life. And so I had a standard for what I expected out of myself.
Yeah.
And so even if we didn't stay married, I was like, well, I had to kind of put on the producer hat. And there was even a period, I remember when you were going through your hippy dippy phase, and I felt like this message come down. My book's all about God as my ghostwriter, because I have pivots in my life where I feel like, you want to call it God, source, whatever you want to call it, like speaks to you directly and is like, hey. And I had this moment where it was like I felt like, hey, maybe he's not supposed to be the provider, it's you. That's how I interpreted it back then. But now I interpret it as like, he's not your savior. You need to be the answer for you. And I was like, oh. So that pushed me to look at things differently. And part of my success is whenever in my industry, it's like, hey, you can't do this, or this is what you have to charge. And I'm like, but why? Who wrote those rules? And if they're not working, why do I have to abide by these rules? And not only that, I can't abide by these rules. I've got to pay daycare. I've got to get food. I've got, you know what I mean? It's like, I can't abide by these rules. So I'm surprised in our industry that more people didn't question it.
Yeah.
But I do believe that I have elevated in the last 10 years, whether you see it that way or not. I have a lot of students that hate me and love me and this and that. I'm like, whether you like me or you don't like me, I still indirectly or directly impacted you.
Well, what's fun is even all the women talking shit, they have radically bigger lives than they ever had before. Mm-hmm. That's the hard part with any of this process, the fact that people can't be grateful.
Yeah.
It's like they have a rub or they have a piece, and it's happened in Warrior too. Like, we got guys who have built entire groups of dudes who want to bitch and moan about it, things I'm doing. I'm like, it's okay. Your life continues to stay small. I continue to win and you continue to lose. And that's okay. If you want to be a loser, then continue to lose. And that's fine. You want to be the backyardigans, keep doing hair in the backyard. That's fine. You want to continue to, be overweight and complain about life. Well, it's your fault. You're overweight. You want to change that? You can change that. You want to stop being broke? You can stop being broke. Mm-hmm. Like you took this on like in a massive way. And then it was fun to watch the team come here of some of the people who I'd originally been involved with you in guiding and leading 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. And we had 7 of your top trainers who are in strategic alliance and partners with you now, certifying and licensing people in MBR, now running classes all over the country, just a switch in the way the business was run to where instead of all the training being in-house, connecting, allowing the training to be outside while you could control the hair and the conversation.
Well, I kind of got to this place where like I let go of like all of my team, and I looked at it as a chance to rebuild it the way I saw it and rebuild it the way I want it. But also too, like a lot of students I talk to that they may maybe offer like multiple methods and gone on different classes, they come back and it's nice to hear they're like, MBR was like the original. Like it was the foundation. So even though we've learned stuff here, we still come back to a lot of the key principles that were taught. I'm like, I fucking know. And so there's a piece of me that's just like, whatever, like victims are going to be victims. Right. But you kind of have to like stay in your lane. And my goal this year is I am like, as much reps I have in educating, it's time to come back, and same with Warrior. It's like you had all these men's groups coming. It's like, hey, full circle, because Warrior's coming back with Man in Arena and all these things. It's like we were both started movements in our industry. Mm-hmm. And now we have built this incredible foundation where somebody who just jumped into men's coaching 3 years ago, they don't have what we have. Same thing, somebody who's like, oh, I teach invisible extensions. You're like, good for you, but you don't have the reps that I do. So you are $1,000 program. I am not $1,000 program. You can't be where I'm at because you don't have the reps. You can't deliver what I deliver. So it just kind of comes like, it's kind of cool for both of us. So I feel like we're kind of like coming full circle, and like we've got all our kids and family out of the way. Now we're like next chapter.
Well, I got a message this morning from Justin Colby, who was on the show here with you on your show, good friend of my real estate investor here in Miami and runs a big podcast. And he sent me a message because he had somebody he knew was very passionate about this men's program up in New York. Mm-hmm. And this guy named Raul, he's like, man, I looked at some of his content. It seems like it's basically like Warrior, but it's like not Warrior. Like, is this guy steal your stuff or who is he? I'm like, nah, bro, that was one of my first proteges, him and Sean Whalen. So the Edge and Lines on Sheet, these two guys were both in Warrior with me in the first 3 years. And they were the first 2 guys we tested taking the Warrior message. And they were the only 2. There were 2 of 5 guys, and they were the only 2 out of the 5 who actually went with it. Mm-hmm. And Sean launched Lines on Sheep, and Raul launched the Edge. And for the last 10 years, have been impacting people. And I've stepped back, like even now, looking at, even Andy Elliott and the credit he gives to Warrior for what it did for him. Even Wes Watson, like across the board, like all of these movements. Skylar Lewis, who runs the Rise Up Kings in Dallas, Texas, was a student of Warrior for 2 years and launched Rise Up Kings coming out of Warrior. Like all of these big men's movements, Order of Man, all of these guys have been impacted. I Am a Comeback, Superhuman Fathers, Fortress of Fathers, Man Wealth, Pivot, Standard, all these men's movements that are crushing right now were all guys that were either directly in Warrior or guys like Andy who saw it from the outside and were inspired by it. So I'm sitting in a place same as you in hair where I'm like,
it's full
10, 12, 13 years later, we did the thing God called us to do, which was to start a movement. And just like Russell with ClickFunnels, it was a movement of movement makers. In my world, it was to initiate, New York Times, New York Post did articles on us in 2017. They were trying to do smear campaigns on me, called it $10,000 man cult. You can look it up on Google it, you'll find it. And they were trying to run a smear campaign on me and what we were doing, but all the top guys they interviewed had nothing but amazing things to say. They're like, listen, if getting fit, being spiritually connected to God, being amazing with my wife and children, and getting more wealthy is part of being a cult, then yeah, it's the best fucking cult I've ever been part of. And they couldn't. So they ended up this great article, and the words they used in it was, Garrett J. White and Wake Up Warrior have been the initiators of the industry of masculinity. So long before all these social media influencers, and there's tons of dudes on social media that are a lot bigger than me in social media.
Right.
But when it actually comes to working with men, none of them, most of them started in the last 4 or 5 years, right when COVID hit. We've been going since 2012.
Yeah.
13 years in the trenches with over 70,000 men, like figuring out, just like you in hair, 13 years, 14 years of working with hairstylists in a very intimate way.
But here's what's crazy, and I'll ask you this because it's like, now everyone's like, oh, it's so saturated, so saturated, so saturated. But here's how I look at it. Is Andy's message the same as yours? No. Is he still like at some level a men's movement leader?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is any of these guys? It's like you guys can all have kind of like core principles and values that are similar, but somebody who hears you, they might be totally turned off, and then they hear Andy and they're like, that's my guy.
Yep.
Or they might hear somebody else and be
hear
like,
Wes, they hear Sean Whalen, they hear Mark Jennison, they hear Kyle Carnahan,
you guys can all be
Bedros Keuilian,
teaching like very similar principles, but you all have different programs too. Yeah. So I've kind of even gotten to this place with hair where I'm like, hey, like all these, we've got like so much. I'm like, I'm going to come back around and I'm going to swoop all you hair brands back in. I'm going to bring you onto my stage and we're going to play together, because a $1,000 hairdresser is not my client. And in fact, I don't want the $1,000 hairdresser to be my client, because what she's going to do is she's going to come pay $5,000 and it's going to be too much of a stretch. And then she's going to feel resentful. I need her to go pay for those $1,000 courses so that when she comes to that $5,000 course, she's like, oh, this is why this is $5,000. So everybody plays a role in how they show up and the client that they attract, right? So it's not competition when you understand that. And when you understand that, it's like, hey, guys, you didn't like me 4 years ago and you're struggling to make your business. Hey, no hard feelings. I get it. Why don't we all come together and I'm going to put you on my stage? And the same with like what you're doing with like Man in the Arena and everything that's coming up. It's like, it's not competition. No. Sure, you might have people that you're like, hey, I don't want them on my stage. It doesn't align, whatever. But there's a lot of people where your core values do align that can get on a stage together and communicate an even stronger message to different groups of people. And I'm telling you, it's like, that's the new game, and the direction that things are going to go is collaboration. It's just going to be collaboration, because there's so many brands and there's so much opportunity that the ones that don't collaborate are going to just get sifted through.
Well, collaboration builds syndication. So the only way in a marketplace is completely drowned with noise and volume and tons of very good people. The only thing that stands out of all those voices is a unified syndication or syndicate of leaders who come together and unify brands and bring the brands up above the noise.
Right.
Because now the syndication is louder than any one individual. One individual can never compete with a syndicate. Just like one man cannot compete with a gang. One dude, no matter how badass he is, rolls up against a gang of 30 dudes. He's done it. Doesn't matter how fucking amazing he is. All could be smaller dudes. It doesn't matter. Those 30 guys will overwhelm the one.
Right.
No matter how powerful he is. Not the movies are bullshit. It's not like how it works. You get 30 dudes, roll up. You could take 30 dudes who are like 150 pounds to roll up on one dude that's like 250 fucking killer. They're going to get him. Somebody's going to hit him in the head with a crowbar. He's being taken out with those 30 guys. Right. Less he doesn't have any weapons, if it's just physical. Well, that same tribe mentality is what's happening in today's market too, is that as people collaborate, they create a gang. And that gang itself becomes more powerful than any one individual voice. And collectively as a group, they're more powerful than they ever were individually. Right. And if they can live in abundance and collaboration, then the game gets bigger and everybody wins. The clients win, the brands win, everything wins. This is what we're doing with Man Arena Tour.
Well, it's all like kind of like an affiliate game too, where like you come together and everybody wins.
And it's a win-win-win-win-win, which is really the game that God created, which was the abundant game of all of us can win at the same time. It doesn't have to be win and lose. It doesn't have to be, I'm a winner, you're a loser.
But it's interesting too, though. Like even in the men's space, there's a lot of like men still fighting, and you're like, what are you fighting for? Hair people are no different. They're all a bunch of diva artists that they like think they're all in competition, you know. So it's just interesting. Like, how do you say like, hey, like you just find the ones that are like ready to actually like, you're like, hey, are we done fighting?
They have to be in abundance.
Are we done fighting?
They have to be in abundance. Yeah. The same thing we're finding right now. Like the movement leaders that are running with me now are guys who all have financial stability, movements that matter. They know their voice. They know their message. They know their people. There's not a threat. So even like me coming on their stage is not a threat. Versus in the past, it would have been a threat, and it would have been a threat to me too.
Right.
Now I can bring Andy into my events. It's no big deal. I go over to his event, speak. It's no big deal because we have different people, and we're different messengers. Right. Same thing. Wes and I, same thing. Sean and I, same thing. Mark and I, same thing. You know, Bedros and I, same thing with everybody. Is like, okay, there's your message, there's my message. It's the same kind of message, but it's through two different messengers.
I will agree with that because, when you're in a place of abundance, you just see things differently.
You can't not. I mean, that's marriage. Like if everything in our marriage is seen through the lens of scarcity and win-lose, then nobody wins.
Right.
It's like you and I both submitting to a reality for both of us. You want to be seen a certain way. I want to be seen a certain way. You want to experience something in one way. I want to experience something one way. And we both drop our egos and we get to a place of abundance with each other. There's just a desire to serve. There's a desire to find out how your day was. That is not attached to sex. And there's a desire for you to have sex and connect with me that's not attached to anything else either. It's like, I want to serve my husband. And you're like, I want to serve my wife.
It's interesting, though, when you bring that up in relationships, too, because when we spend more time together, we are in abundance and then it is more natural. When we have like chaotic work weeks, like even last week, or events, it's hard to come into a place. That's why we're signing contracts on our last podcast, is because we had time, but we were a little bit depleted last week, you know? So then it's like, there's less of that like harmony of like, we're in an abundant place. Did we sign that contract?
Yes. Well, like, I mean, you think about it too. Like when you and I, when we were in Vegas and we have time with each other, sex is like a normal, natural thing. It's like fun. You enjoy it. You're wilder. I'm wilder. Like the whole thing's fun. But when we're in manage toddlers, manage teenagers, run the brands, run the business, big events, lots of pressure, long days, everything happening. If we're not careful, though, the game drifts in a week.
Right. Oh, I know. That's why.
Like a week, it can drift.
Well, that's why yesterday I was like, can we plan like an overnighter?
Yeah. Well, and I was
You're like,
in work mode. So I was like, no, we're doing this. No,
I was like, no, like an overnighter somewhere.
Yeah. I know. I thought about that this morning. That was not the best response yesterday.
I was like, you don't have 2 nights, like
I
Friday
can make
to
it.
Sunday? I know.
Hey, listen, if I can make sex happen at 6 a.m. every day, I can make an overnighter happen too.
But it's interesting because like, here's what's crazy. And I know you experience this too. Like we don't just have 2 kids or 1 kid. We have 4 and they all need and want our attention, almost as if like, it's probably worse for you.
It's way worse for me.
5 girls.
It's way worse.
Want your time and attention. So it's like, you have to, like you have Ruby last night who were like, I'm trying to sneak off, put a movie. Did you notice I tried to put the kids in that little cabana thing for them to watch a movie? Because I'm thinking, me and you can go up and have a moment where they're watching their movie in the cabana.
Oh, I didn't read that.
I missed
it.
Yeah. But then Ruby found us, and then Ruby wanted 30 minutes of your time. She's like, Dad, it's my birthday. I want to go. And I was like, oh, I'm like all constantly competing for your time. And
it's a constant. I come through the door as a man and I have literally 5 women that want my time and attention. Like I could imagine having 5 wives or
plus
5
you have 2
girlfriends.
nannies and 3 assistants.
I have 3 female assistants, 2 female nannies, 4 daughters, and a wife. That is my day. I am insulated by this harem of women. I sleep with one of them, and yet I'm with all of them all the time, and then I lead the men's movement.
Yeah.
I think it's actually quite funny.
There's
me
also have 2
surrounded by women leading movements of tens of thousands of men.
Well, if anybody can do it, I guess it's
and
you.
2 female dogs.
Yeah.
And female house cleaners.
But it's like last night I had this moment where I was like our kitchen's so small in our new house compared to our last house. This house is just built weird. Like everything's like really open and big. And then I'm like, oh, they don't
tiny kitchen.
They must not like to cook. So we're like in the kitchen with all 4 girls. And like, I literally was like, I need to go upstairs like for a minute. Like, that's why I was like, hey, we're going to create a cabana. And I was just trying to find quiet.
Yeah.
Because you'll have all 4 of the girls like, mama. And I'm like trying to like, and then I'm always the bad guy. You never listen to me. And I'm like, well, she's talking to me and I got a toddler hanging on me. And like, I'm always constantly getting in trouble that I'm not giving you. So that's why I snapped yesterday when you're like, you're on your phone. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm like, it doesn't matter if I'm not on my phone. I can't even go pee without somebody coming in and being like, hey, Mom. I'm like, I need like just like 2 more minutes, like 2 more minutes. And maybe you don't get this as a mom, but like you're constantly like being pulled. And if you don't stop peeing at that moment and give your daughter your attention, you're an horrible mom. It's almost like they don't even know I'm going to the bathroom. So there's a reason sometimes I like kind of sneak off because I'm like, I just need quietness for a minute.
Yeah.
Which I get, I'm sure you understand too, but.
That's why I wake up early.
That's your time.
Yeah. If I don't wake up early, it's chaos because I'll be like that clear till bedtime.
Yeah. See, I don't like to wake up early, but I wake up when the kids wake up at like 7:30.
But you have coverage in the morning to be able to have.
I know I do, and that's why I have our nanny come at 7 because that's what time the babies come in. Then I'm like, I just need like an hour before I go work out and like do my social media and my email, and like I just need that time to like wake my brain up.
Yeah, I get it. I'm the same way.
But at night, it's like there's at night it's always like a little bit of a shit show, and all the girls are in the kitchen.
It's kind of nice with like a cozy kitchen. I think it's fun because everybody's like on top of each other. The last house, the kitchen was way big.
Yeah.
And the living room was wrapped up around it too. So everybody could kind of ditch into different quarters and kind of just disappear.
I mean, I'll end up redoing this kitchen. Just
of course. If we want a lease option with this house, and if we exercise the option at the end of the year,
I would change the doors, all the toilets, and the kitchen.
Rip the whole downstairs out.
No, I don't mind the downstairs. Just the kitchen's dumb. I would rip out the kitchen, all the toilets, and all the doors.
The toilets are bad.
The toilets are weird.
The toilets are a story for another podcast.
That's another podcast.
Another podcast. So you've got the trainer game going, and that's fantastic. We have the Man Arena Tour coming up. May 17th is our first stop. Second stop will be in Miami in September. Third stop is in Phoenix.
So it's a tour.
It's a tour. We've got three stops this year, 5,000 to 7,000 men per event.
It's a
unified
with
a men's only event. We'll have females that are like supporting, like running some of the like my teams and stuff. But there's yeah, it's exciting, and I'm excited for it because I've seen it for a long time. I saw an event like this. I just didn't know how it was going to play out, and now I've got the right partners with it, with Dan Fleischman and a bunch of other great, amazing people are part of it, and it's going to be big. It's going to be bigger things than we've ever done before, but also unified in a different way with a whole bunch of men's movements who care about doing deep work with men, kind of bringing us all under one roof, different banners, different kingdoms, one movement. Kingdom is the focus, God is the focus, and the focus is the men.
How many days is this event?
1 day.
Oh, it's only 1 day. Okay.
1 day. Yep. Guys got a chance to come in and experience the top men's trainers in one space, the big names that you know in lots of different verticals who have thousands and thousands of men in their programs, all come to one place, which is kind of fun because we're already seeing it happen where they're going around and they're participating in everybody's programs.
Yeah, they're like just
so we'll bring it all into one arena and give everybody a taste of what that feels like. And then we have a program that we're putting together called Man Arena Protocol, which will be a program with all the top men's movement guys who all have their unique thing to be able to guide men. Yeah. So it's exciting. So it's a shorter show today.
It's a shorter show. Yeah, it's good.
Shorter show because we got things to do. So we love you guys and you're amazing.
So if it's like I don't have a big event this year. I might next year. This year we just have classes. So if you're a hairstylist and you're listening to this and you're interested in getting certified in natural beauty rose, that's the game this year. But again, I've been educating for over 15 years. It's not a demo. It's not $1,000 course. If you actually want to take your career to the next level, definitely check out my certification course with myself or one of my trainers. You can go to mbr.education.
And along with that, if you're interested in the Man Arena Tour, we'd love to have you as a guy. You can check that out at maninthearenatour.com. So that brings this show to wrap. A little bit different show than last show.
That's good, though.
It was totally great.
It's good.
This is the diversity. We're showing a diversity of skill sets.
Yes.
And we're going to keep you updated. We got 28 days more to go on the sex game. You might be wondering how you're listening to one show and then the next show because we recorded them back to back.
We're going to say sex and connection.
Sex and connection.
Yeah.
Sex connection.
No.
That didn't work. Okay, so connect.
Sounds like sectioning.
Sectioning. Section.
No.
Nope, that doesn't work. We're not going to go with it. Sex and connection, our 30-day challenge. We're down 2 days. We've got 28 more to go. I have zero doubt in my ability on this. Okay. Zero.
We'll keep you posted.
Variability 164-pack crayon box over here.
Have you ever done 75 hard?
Have I been hard 75 times or have I done 75 hard?
You've done 75 hard.
Yes.
You did?
Yeah. Have you done 75 hard?
No, I don't agree with that.
This is 30 days hard for you?
No.
No,
it just made me think of 75 hard. And I was like, have you done 75 hard?
Literally, it's 30 days.
People that do 75 hard, I'm like, you should just be more disciplined in life.
Yeah, well, we're about to show 30 days hard on my side. That's the commitment.
Okay. All right.
That's what we're going to call it. The 30-day hard challenge. That's what it's going to be called. We're going to release a product after we're done with this. We're going to show you guys how to be hard 30 straight days in a row.
Okay. That's it. Thanks for stopping by.
30 days of coming. Come with us for 30 days.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, guys. Thanks. We'll see you next week on another episode of Date Your Wife Podcast.
That was a horrible ending. We'll see you next week on the Date Your Wife podcast.